had a chap once who joined our mentoring program who had 3 quite substantial development sites, and every one of them was in his own personal name. We do not recommend developing in your personal name. And that gets back to the asset protection thing we talked about a little bit earlier, is if you develop a development, let's say in your own personal name, now heaven forbid, but let's say something goes wrong and you're left exposed and somebody is going to sue you for something that's happened around this property development. If it's in your own name, everything you own in your own name's at risk.
It's good night news. Yeah.
Could be.
Could be.
Now, if things went really bad and the remedy or the damages couldn't be dealt with from that one project, they just chase you for the rest.
There goes your car.
It could be your own name, your car,
your home,
your Rolex watch. Every developer needs a fake Rolex watch. And, so that's why you don't want it in your own name. You want it in an entity. And
so that begs the question, because this has recently happened, and I know that people might find this interesting. Bob, they've bought a property. Somebody in our mentoring program has done this, and then they've decided, so they bought it in their own name, then they changed their mind and decided to develop it. So what do you do in that case? So it's just like, what do you do?
Well, I've come across this quite a bit, because what can happen, people can buy a property in their own name because, let's say, it's their principal place of residence. You're buying, it's just your house. So you buy it in your own name. But then you might end up wanting to develop that property. Now, I know who you're talking about there. Their intention wasn't to develop it when they bought it. It's just a house to live in with the family. Now it's turned into a development proposition. And I've seen other people, for instance, who buy an investment property, could be 10 years ago, in their own name, because they were advised, well, buy it in the name of the highest income earner to maximise tax deductions that you get from owning an investment property. And there's nothing wrong with that advice. But you've come to a point now where this property could be developed, but it's in your personal name. So the issue is, what do they do? Do they keep it in their own name, develop, take a risk that potentially they could be exposed if something goes wrong and you end up getting sued in your own name? Or do you take it out of your own name and put it into some sort of structure, be it company or trust or whatever the advice is? And like we just said before, we talked about 5 different taxes.
You're going to incur stamp duty.
Yeah, well, that's right. You take it out of your own name and put it into a structure. Stamp duty you can't get away from that. And you may have to pay capital gains tax. It may have been your principal place of residence. That can have a different tax outcome than if it was an investment property. But like if it was an investment property you bought 10 years ago, the value's gone up a lot. And now if you take it out of your name into an entity, you're going to have a lot of capital gains tax to pay and stamp duty. So what do you do? And look, sometimes people just say, look, I'm going to pay so much tax if I take it out and put it into another entity. I'm just going to take the risk. It's unlikely something bad's going to happen and I'm going to get exposed.
And it's kind of weighing up, like you're doing a FISO on both, like seeing what will cost, like there's the pros and cons financially, and then deciding on your own risk profile. Well, I'm prepared to do that or I'm not.
Yeah, well, you hit it right on the head there. Those 2 things are weighing up the tax implications. You might win on one tax and lose on another, and your accountant can calculate that for you. But yeah, how do you value risk? It's unlikely. It's a low likelihood, but sort of you're thinking about it for maybe 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. Grey hairs start growing.
It's all good.
Yeah. Start losing your hair.
Yeah, so, sometimes it's not necessarily somebody's fault that they got it wrong. They got the right advice back in the day, but see, circumstances and intentions change. That's the difference. It's not that it was wrong 10 years ago or 5 years ago and all of a sudden it's that at the time the intention was this, the circumstances were that, and it was correct. Now, circumstances, intentions different, requires a different structure, but it might be just too expensive.